I'm John McGrath. I'm the endorsed Democratic candidate in the newly established Windham-Colchester Probate District. Well, one of the things I think is very important is that probate judges specifically, do a lot more than just process paperwork. I think a lot of people think probate judges just process the paperwork after someone dies, but in fact, probate judges make very important decisions about, for instance, where a child might live, or whether an elderly person would have to remain in a nursing home or could come home to live at home. And in the rest of the courts in the state, judges are appointed, but in the probate court system, judges are elected. So this gives the opportunity to voters in the district and throughout the state to elect the people that they want to make those difficult decisions. And I think I have the experience and the training to be able to make those kind of decisions. One of the changes recently was that probate courts have developed a separate court to handle children's issues, and there is actually a children's court in Willimantic on South Park Street, and the probate judge in this district will hear probate cases involving children in the regional children's court, and they've developed a process where they use a social worker and really try to get to the bottom of what the issues are in the case. And if you can't resolve a case, then the judge would hear the case in a trial at the children's court. Well, I think it's very important to have the kind of experience that I have or other lawyers have who are actually doing the work that involves the people that the court serves, and that is something you really have to do it. You have to put in your time and get to know the people and get to know the type of issues that courts deal with, the probate courts specifically deal with. I think it's also very important to know the communities. Willimantic is a different community in terms of its financial makeup, its population, as well as the issues that are here. But Scotland, Hampton, and Chaplin are smaller towns, but towns I'm very familiar with. Have clients in all those towns. Lebanon and Colchester are equally unique in terms of the character of the towns, and so after living in this area for 25 years, I think I've gotten to know each of these towns in their own way. Raised in Simsbury, Connecticut, which is about an hour from Windham, and raised in what was at that point a fairly small town, but has grown into sort of a suburban town. And I was looking for a town that had more diversity to live, and Windham's that kind. I've been a lawyer for 25 years. Graduated from the University of Connecticut Law School. I was an undergraduate at Yale University, and then I taught English before going to law school. But since becoming a lawyer, I've worked in the Windham area pretty much exclusively, except for the first year, and worked for 3 years as the staff attorney at the Willimantic office of the Connecticut Legal Services. And Connecticut Legal Services serves poor people in all of Windham County, and at that time also in Tolland County. And I worked with poor people in housing cases and in family law cases. And that's a very rewarding experience because you have a lot of cases, and you learn how to listen to people. You learn how to judge what they need and try to figure out how to get people what they need within the legal system. After legal services, where I worked for 3 years, I became an associate in a firm for a couple of years, and then had my own law office. And one of the things I began doing at that time was working with juvenile court, and I was appointed as a lawyer for parents and children and sometimes grandparents in cases involving abused and neglected children, sometimes termination of parental rights of children. And again, you don't get to pick your clients when you're involved in those kind of cases. You're assigned. Sometimes you're assigned a child, and sometimes you're assigned a parent, or sometimes you're assigned a grandparent. So those are also very challenging cases, and I got a lot of experience working with the Department of Children and Families, and working with people throughout Windham County, because the juvenile court covers all of Windham County, and as well as some of Talon County. Well, I actually had an image one day when I was at law school, and I was going to law school in the evening and teaching during the day for a couple of years. And I thought that having a storefront law office, as I refer to it, would be kind of an interesting way to be a lawyer, rather than being in an office where you're kind of separated from your clients. And I guess that's sort of what's happened, because we have an office on 41 High Street in Willimantic, and it's basically it's an office right on the street, and I have a lot of interaction with clients all the time. I have a lot of people come in. My clients come in to see me. So there's not a lot of corporate separation between you and your clients. It's very hands-on. I was a lawyer at a program at the University of Connecticut Law School, and she also does work at our office, which is why it's called McGrath and McGrath. If I'm successful in being elected probate judge, her intention is to come back and work in Willimantic and allow me to work full-time as a judge, which I think is probably what it will take to handle the caseload in the new district. We also have 3 children who are pretty much grown, and Michael, Mayadair, and Francis, and we live in Windham Center, where we've been in the same house for 24 years. Yeah, I have a real variety of cases in my office, in addition to the types of things we've already talked about involving children and elderly and probate matters, I've also done a lot of real estate law and civil litigation. I've represented criminal defendants in court. I've had some appellate court cases involving termination of parental rights and land use issues. So the type of work I do, the type of cases I do, really give me a lot of experience in many different aspects of the law: contract law, business law, small businesses, and that's kind of the type of small town and small city legal work that comes up. And I think it's important for a probate judge to have that kind of a broad experience, because so many of the cases that come up in probate court could involve issues involving real estate or involving even criminal issues. Not that you're a criminal judge, but that you understand the system, and you've had experience even in the criminal system to understand what those issues are. I also, one of the things that I learned doing some legal work for poor people through legal services was that you can become kind of reactive as a lawyer. You don't get out in front of a problem, and we were dealing with a real housing crisis at one point when I was at legal services, and there were abandoned buildings in town, and we put together an organization that bought the buildings, rehabbed the buildings, and made them into affordable housing that was safe, that was affordable, and that's a different aspect of the kind of things you can do as a lawyer when you see a problem. And I think as a judge too, when you identify a problem and you sort of have the tools to address the problem correctly and find an answer. And so that was a rewarding experience. When we got involved in living here, it looked like that's where we were going to stay. We both got involved, Barbara and I, with the Democratic Party in town, and I've been on the Board of Selectmen in town as well as the Board of Education. Been on the board of the Covenant Soup Kitchen for over 20 years, and on the board of the Windham Free Library. And those things are important experiences, I think, because I learned to how things get done and how government works. The soup kitchen's a very important place in the community, and so is the library. And in the soup kitchen, for instance, you get to know people who are really consumers of the probate court, because the probate court does not just handle the affairs of people after they die, it also takes care of appointing people who